Hello, everybody. I'm excited today to be talking about something very timely here at the end of the year. My name is Tiffany Mullen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Vital Health. In case you don't know who I am, also the one that talks all the time. And I'm also a physician, practicing physician, functional and integrative medicine. And I'm super excited to introduce all of you to Patty Stark. Patty, who I have actually known Patty longer than I've known Vital Health. We go way back.
Oh, way back. Yeah,
We
we
go
do.
way back. Yeah. So Patty's the OG health coach in my life. So Patty has a really interesting background, and feel free to say more about this, Patty. But just from a very like sketch, I'm doing a quick sketch here. Patty has been a teacher and educator most of her career. Worked with kids, and I think just at the elementary level, right? Or did you work at all? Yeah, elementary level, and then toward the end of your career with like the gifted and talented programming and all kinds of
And reading specialist
reading specialist.
and kind of a coach of my colleagues in
Yeah,
those respects.
mentoring new teachers, right? And teachers, yeah. So very great teacher, but then also decided, and like I did, to do a pivot in her career and turn to health coaching, which is she, because of her educational background and just her personality and skill set in general, she's just so good at it. So I'm so glad you went down that path. How many years ago? 5, 4, 6 years ago?
Six, it'll be
Six
six
years.
next month.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Yeah, that's
No,
amazing.
and I like the way you said that it was a pivot
Yeah.
because I'm still using a lot of what I used in education in terms of guiding by the side and not being that sage on the stage. So, like pulling things out of the conversation that I can then put a mirror up and let learners, because
Yeah.
all of our patients are learning just like we do every day. So it was a nice shift
Yeah.
for an educator to head down this path. And I've always had a passion about integrative medicine and health, and I've never been one of those pill for an ill people. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
it's a good fit all around.
This I know
Yeah.
about you. And so Patty decided to take the route of functional medicine health coaching, which is awesome. So she's, right in the wheelhouse of what we do at Vital Health. And yeah, I always forget teachers are such great listeners. We always think of them as like talking at people, but they're really great listeners and observers. I come from teacher people, so I can see that where you have to really be paying attention. And actually, when you're in a classroom, you have to be paying attention to a lot of people, like all at
Sure.
once. So it's a tremendous skill set to be such a great active listener and observer of people, and human creatures in general, not just kids. so I'm so glad to have you here. And we're going to be talking today about sort of the idea of goal setting. Now, interestingly enough, I've been sort of feeling a little bit uncomfortable around this idea of goal setting. I read an article, and I was saying to Patty before we met today that there was an article that I read that talked about how goal setting is a little bit of a distraction because goals are a little bit like not always achievable. They're sort of amorphous. People don't really know how to get at them. And so we kind of end up saying like, oh, I'm going to set these goals, but really don't have the skill set to kind of get there or figure out how to approach it, how to break it down. And so I was hoping, Patty, we could start off with you talking a little bit about how you reframe the phrase goal setting or the idea of goal setting.
Yeah, sure. So I often find when a patient or a client comes to me with ideas of goals, they're often very, very grandiose. I can still, I kind of giggle to myself when I hear my husband's younger voice saying, I'm going on a health kick right after the. And so there's an example of a very grandiose goal. What does that even mean? And
This is
also,
health kick.
why are you waiting? But anyway, so yeah, so that idea, what is a health kick? Like, what does that even mean? So goals tend to be vague like that. So
Yeah.
they tend to be, I really want to get down to my ideal weight. Believe it or not, that's a very vague goal because there are, a myriad of reasons to lose weight, of course, but to just throw that out there and that seems also really goals tend to be like too much,
Yeah.
to take on
Too big.
and too big. They tend to be too big. So I like to look at more of consider some habits that you might want to change, because you and I both know, and I know many of our patients know, that so much of our health depends on our lifestyle. So
Yeah.
we all have this little pocket full or folder full of ideas of what we might want to change in terms of our lifestyle. And those, if you want to still use the word goal, those goals still can then be broken down into more practical lifestyle habits. So even going back to the idea of New Year's resolutions, right? We all have encountered them one way or another. Some people vow to never make them because they tend to fizzle out pretty quickly. Some people make them, and very few actually stick
Yeah.
with. And again, the resolution,
Mhm.
it tends to be lofty, right? Like a goal.
Yes.
So when I sit down with someone and they've had a chance to talk to one of our amazing vital health physicians and or our nutritionist,
Mhm.
they'll kind of sometimes feel a little overwhelmed, like I have all these things I should be doing and I don't even know where to start. So
Mhm.
that's one of the things where our conversations help peel back some of those layers, like what, and you really, before you start any sort of a habit change idea, you really want to do some self-reflection and
Totally.
ask yourself, what is it that's driving me to do this? And oftentimes if we take that time to look a little deeper from just that surface list of things we should be doing, we can say to ourselves, okay, I I just don't want to see myself where I saw my mother struggling, at, age 50 or whatever, where her health just started to go downhill. I just don't want to see myself in those same shoes. I realize I've got some of the genetics that are going to take me down that path if I don't change anything. But so often patients want to change it all in week one, and it's just not realistic. So that's kind of one of the things I like to do and recommend with patients is let's really zero in on a habit, and then maybe even take it down a few steps from wherever they came up. Maybe they want to exercise more. And then again, I always like to go back to that why. Why do you,
Is
you
so
know,
critical, isn't it?
and our whys change, don't they?
They
Um,
totally do.
yeah. So my 20s, I thought, well, I just want to look good on the beach. And and
And
my
still
40s, I'm
do,
like,
Patty.
I want to be able to take my own bike off the hooks on the garage.
I
I want to
know.
be strong. And now it's like, I want to get up off the ground with my grandson, without, breathing hard and, using all of my limbs to just hang on to furniture. I want to be able to pop up and do the next thing with him. So, our whys change. So it's good to kind of check in with that. And that because so much of our momentum comes from that why. We just have to look back at it from
Oh
time
my
to time.
gosh, you're so right. I think the why, it's kind of what I was thinking about this whole time, is like the why is so critically important because the goal kind of almost speaks to the what. It's like, what do I want to do? It's like, oh, I want to exercise more. And that's a goal or a New Year's resolution or whatever you want to call it. But if you don't have a why under there, there's nothing really to emotionally attach it to. And I think you almost have to have like an emotional scaffolding to attach these things to, because that's what ends up being motivating, right? Underneath it is that emotional piece. Whether that's, the emotion of seeing somebody else in your family having, prematurely become ill or sick or weak, or yourself feeling something. And then under that, for me, to your point of going many levels down, is how honest can we get with ourselves? Like how completely vulnerably honest can we get with the why? Because the why might be still very, um, about looking good or appearing a
Shallow.
certain way. Yeah. But under there, if you could get under there, there may be some fears or some, attachments to things that haven't been really resolved. And that's really where the why is. The why is about resolving those issues. So what does the process look like when somebody's coming to you and they're, trying to sort, let's just say, we'll pick, for example, that they want to start exercising more, which is, I think, a common one that people tend to go on again
Mhm.
and tends to be the classic New Year's resolution. I mean, I see this every year in my gym, which I've been going to for 15 years. the same new throng of people show up on January 2nd. And then, within the month of January, we're all back to the same core group of people
Yeah,
that are
you
so
have your space again.
going. Yeah. I mean, we're all just,
So
just so used to it. It's like brushing our teeth. We just do this, but so how do you get people to make the first steps or make those early habit vulnerable, whatever kind of connections that they need to make in order for the change or decision to be lasting, the habit to be lasting?
yeah, so like we said, it's so important to spend some time with that why.
Yeah.
And I tend to throw questions at the why when it first bubbles to the surface, and like you said, dig a little deeper, and that also comes with trust. That's not going to be on day one with my patients, but down the road as we start digging into this, like I said, like flesh out that why, and once they have a sense of what that is, then like you said with the exercise, I want to know their history with exercise, and when was the last time they maybe actually enjoyed it, and maybe they haven't. I mean, technically we aren't wired to enjoy exercise. Our ancestors, the hunters and gatherers before us, they didn't exercise, they just
Ooh.
chased after food, or chased and ran away from predators so that they weren't food. But technically we're not really wired to love exercise. So I always want to tell patients that it's okay not to love exercise. Maybe you just love it when it's over. It's still possible to make it a habit, but just in case there are, some people out there who really used to love exercise, or even I have them go as far back as when they were little. When you were a kid, what did you enjoy doing that required you to move your body? Because when you think about kids, especially like 3, 4, 5-year-olds, they never stop moving, right? And they don't call it exercise. They just have fun. They, I remember in the kindergarten classrooms, I'd be reading a story, and there'd be the little guy in the last row on the little carpet squares, and he'd be up and feeling the rhythm of the story with his body. And it's like, yeah, that's what we want to do as humans. We want to move. We're wired and built to move. So what I try to get at is what brings you joy when you move. And if I can't get at that, if there isn't a good fit, we try to get as close as we can, right? So even something as simple as turning on a song and in the privacy of your own space, dance for just that song.
Mhm.
If that's something that used to make you, feel joy when you were trying to think about movement. I've never associated movement with joy, but if you can pull back far enough, maybe that. And if that's not realistic for someone, again, I really let them take the lead. I'm not just this person that spews ideas at them. I pull ideas from them. So someone who says, I hate the gym, but I just joined the gym and I'm going to make myself go, and and it just sounds like 100% drudgery. And then I think, okay, you've already joined the gym, so let's look in that box. What can you do in there that maybe isn't as bad as a treadmill? Because that's what it sounds like you're saying is horrible.
Yeah.
Is there a class? Is there some kind of movement you could do? Do you like the community of a class? So again, there's a lot of back and forth about what could work for an individual, but I think the most important thing is to really start small, no matter what it is. And it's hard for some people, especially when someone's been an athlete in the past.
Yeah.
And they don't want to start small. They've now like stopped exercising completely, but they want to go back to their athlete self. And they want to do it like in January right now, like I want to go, and it's not real. Mm-hmm. So I have to convince them sometimes to have that self-compassion and say, you know what, I didn't get to this place in a snap. I'm not going to get back in a snap, and be kind to yourself and realize that those little steps will eventually turn into bigger steps. Yeah. But the secret is the consistency. And right. If you say, I'm going to go to the gym 7 days a week, and you burn out after 8 days, then the consistency's gone. But
Yeah.
if you say, I'm going to go to the gym twice this week and I'm going to set my timer or whatever, my watch for 15 minutes and then make myself leave
Mhm.
and have sort of that feeling of, but I kind of wanted to stay longer, but no, I'm going to stick with this for now. And then check in with yourself the next week. Do you want to push it to 3 days? Do you want to push those 2 days to 20 minutes? And do it as consistently as possible. And honestly, the science shows too, at the same time of day.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, you don't want to just say when I can fit it in, because then it's not going to happen.
Oh, that's fascinating. So
Yeah.
there's actually some science that says if you try to do this habit at the same time of day, it'll actually be more likely to stick.
Yeah, yeah, and also the idea of stacking habits.
So tell me about that.
A lot of what I've read says that 43 in the 40s, but at the most recent article I read, 43% of what we do is habitual. So that's kind of impressive, isn't it?
But
That's a lot.
no, I
So
don't
if
feel
you,
so bad about being a zombie.
yeah, see, think about, all right, so stacking habits then, and a lot of us have our sort of most reliable habits in the morning. So if you really, really want to add an important habit, stack it onto something that you know you're automatically going to do every single day, that you're already doing. And again, little, think little. I'm not sure if the gym would fit with that because, again, I don't want it to be 7 days a week right off the bat, but there's got to be a way to stack a habit with something you're already doing. I know I've got clients who love to either listen to audio books or podcasts or whatever. And so a lot of times too, also have them stack a habit with that. So don't allow yourself to listen to your favorite book unless you're outside going for a walk.
Yeah.
So again, that's like a little bit of a reward for doing something that you might not have.
Dopamine involved in that one. That's a good way to corral your dopamine into working for you.
Exactly.
Motivation
Yeah.
neurotransmitter, the one that's released when you actually
Ah,
are thinking, I'm going to do this and I'm really looking forward to it. And then you do that, you just get this huge hit of dopamine in the brain, which then actually lays down these sort of tracks of like, do more of that, do more of that. Really gets on your side in terms of like you're having your brain chemistry work for you in this case.
yes. Yes. And again, the combination of the dopamine and then the repetition that like solidifies those pathways even more. So it's good stuff.
So how do you suggest people get started about like choosing something to focus on? And now sometimes, to your point earlier in their conversation, it comes out of a necessity. So for example, it might be I've met with my doctor. My doctor has prescribed some nutrition changes that I need to make, and I don't know how to do that. And that's what you can help with.
Yeah, that is a very common one.
Super common because a lot of
Right.
times it's, elimination diets and eating in a way that's completely different than what you have been eating like for a long time. And like, where do you start? How do you break it down? How do you even know what to purchase at the grocery store? How do you get through? But if there's things that I think people are considering, and how is it that you help people focus in on an achievable, let's call it a smaller achievable thing that they can push toward? Because a lot of us, we tend to do the sort of New Year's resolution where we pick a whole bunch of things that we're focusing on, like personally and professionally and relationship wise and blah, 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 only to find that you obviously don't have enough bandwidth to manage all that. Sure. So how do you help people decide where to start with entertaining something to work on?
Yeah. I really do try to let them tell me where they think they'd like to start because that motivation piece is huge.
Yeah.
And a lot of times these things kind of work together because as we start, let's just say they land on, I really want to rev up my nutritional intake. Or I want to stop eating so much junk food, whatever it is, related to food, that kind of a thing. A lot of times the healthier we eat, then the more likely we are to like want to start doing other things that fit into that same framework. Oh, maybe I'll go for a walk today. I'm feeling pretty good, because those nutritional boosts will actually give us more energy. So they do kind of tend to move together, which is nice. But if someone came to me and said, I really want to improve my diet, what do you think I should do? And so I try to get a feel for what they're already doing. And as you know, oftentimes I'll have the luxury of looking at the food journals that clients will fill out. And so I can have a sense of, all right, here's a typical. And then as we get conversations going, well, maybe the food journal was a little bit of someone's watching what I'm eating here, so maybe this isn't my normal reality. Also life, right? Like life happens, and then we're stopping at the drive-thru on the way home from work because we're exhausted.
Totally.
So with all of that said, I tend to be more in the belief system that it's better to add good things than necessarily deprive us of all the not so great things. And then eventually what's going to happen is the more you can layer on the really nutritious things and the fabulous fiber and the good protein and healthy fats, your body's not going to have room for the junk if that becomes a little more of a habit. So for someone, just in general, what can I do? My first suggestion is going to be to increase plants in their diet, colorful vegetables. And with that comes that beautiful fiber, which helps them to feel full and kind of wakes up their digestive system and improves the microbiome and all of that. So some sort of lift in the intake of veggies. And so for that to be successful, again, starting small. I actually had a client once and they only liked Brussels sprouts. That was the only vegetable they liked.
That's
and they
so
only
random.
and it's not your
It's
typical favorite.
That's like usually everyone's least favorite vegetable.
Yes, exactly.
Totally.
But
It's like, really? You want me to eat Brussels
I
sprouts?
was surprised and I thought, well, okay, let's
Thank
work
goodness for that.
twice a week. And I'm like, that's okay. Let's shoot for 4 times a week with the Brussels sprouts, and then gradually, add. Okay, choose one more thing to add. Okay, I'll start with those little baby carrots, and celebrate whatever it is, because this is their journey, and I'm just, I'm the Sherpa. I'm there to kind of encourage them and offer a little, and I'm not one to judge, so it's like wherever you have to start, that's my job, is to meet you right there. And then, celebrate. And also, I think one of the most important takeaways people can have from our conversation today is to remember, again, the science shows that this kind of change is not linear. You're not going to start here, even if you start small, and then just shoot up on this beautiful, nice diagonal. That's not how it works. It's going to be, usually a little, fabulous beginning, like I'm consistent for 3 days, and then there's going to be a drop. Yep. And then I'm going to dust myself off, get back on it, and get back in there. So it's not going to be linear, and I think we have to, again, back to that self-compassion, appreciate it's not linear, and I'm doing the best I can right now. I'm not going to beat myself up for having a bad day. I'm just going to get back to it the next day. That's important.
That's so important, because I think so many people, once they fail a couple of times, or they proclaim that they have failed because they don't recognize that it isn't linear, and people fall off their habits all the time. All of us do. How do you help people get back on track? Like, how do you help people sort of psychologically realize that they, sometimes it's just, well, most of the time, we are our own worst enemies, in terms of, we got to do something, we want to do it now, and then we fail, and then we're like, oh, I must be just terrible at this. So how do you help people figure that out?
So initially, when we're trying to really put that habit on the table in front of us and say, all right, here's your plan, make it as specific as possible, right? This is 2 days, make it small, 2 days a week, I'm going to go to the gym, set my timer for 15 minutes, da. And then the next conversation we have in that same, the next thing we talk about in that same moment is, okay, what are the roadblocks that are going to happen to keep you from going to the gym at this time on Tuesdays and Thursdays? oh, well, some days my husband, works this other shift, and so he won't be there to watch the kids. Okay. All right. What can we do about that roadblock? So you have to be honest about what the roadblocks are going to be, and then adjust or have a plan B. Okay. So if your husband suddenly says he's got to work on Tuesday and that's your gym day, is there somebody else you can lean on to look after the kids? Or maybe Tuesday, Thursday isn't good if that's his flexi day. Maybe it needs to be Monday, Thursday. So it's always anticipating the roadblocks. But then, of course, we're not going to anticipate all the roadblocks. They're going to just appear.
Yeah.
And so then we have to say, okay, if this doesn't happen, then what? What's your backup plan? Because it's always okay to have a backup plan. In fact, I think it's important so that you don't just say, oh, well,
It's
I
no.
feel, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and that happens so often this time of year where all of my springtime walkers start.
I know. They're like, now what do I do? I'm
Now
like,
you just got a bundle.
gotta have that backup plan. Gotta go walk in the mall or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah. There's
whatever.
all kinds of free places to walk inside.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so true. Well, so in closing, we have about 5 minutes left, Patty. Can you just, in a very succinct way, talk about what does a health coach actually do? And how do you see your clients with Vital Health? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So, a health coach basically meets with a patient and has a conversation about where are they right now in this moment and what kinds of things are they looking to gently change to improve their health. So what is it about their health, first of all, that um, is connected to lifestyle?
Mhm.
I mean, obviously there are things that are in your lap that I appreciate my scope. So I'm not there to recommend supplements. I'm not there to recommend medications or surgeries or anything. I'm just there to look at where is your health right now? Where would you like it to be? And what lifestyle changes do you think are in your wheelhouse to get from point A to point Z or whatever it is? And so once they've established some sort of overarching ideas, getting away from that word goal, some overarching ideas of where they want to go, that's when we stop and we back it way up and again start small. And every person at every point in their life, every client is different in that they may feel really enthused in this moment and want to tag on lots of ideas. I want to do this and this and this, and I'm going to do these 3 things this week. My job is to sort of, first of all, get to know them, make sure that is that realistic, and even say to them, I will support you 100% with doing those 3 things next week, but I want you to know when we check in again, if something didn't work, that's perfectly okay. Then you're learning something about yourself. I really want to empower them to make their own pathways toward change with my guidance and with my accountability support too, because I think that's a key for being a health coach is I have the ability to support without judging and kind of be the cheerleader, and again, we don't have this whatever familial baggage might be if you were looking toward a family member to be a mentor. There's nothing there. I'm just here to give you that boost that you need to start to solidify some of these health changes.
Boost and I think knowledge. You have so much knowledge, not just as a coach, but just as somebody who knows nutrition and cooks and does a lot of healthy oriented stuff yourself. You draw on a lot of really great skills and your own knowledge base. I think that really translates well into helping people with lifestyle because you're good at it. You're good at lifestyle.
Well, thanks. And it's funny because I've done my own crashing and burning with habits
Yeah.
too. So I can bring some of my failures to the table and my vulnerabilities and let people realize we're all human and we all just need sort of that unconditional support
Mhm.
without any of the heaviness of you know being judged.
Yeah. We
This
judge
we are,
ourselves enough, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know
Yeah.
that my patients who have worked with you and the other physicians who have had patients who have worked with you on lifestyle changes have been overwhelmingly successful and extremely happy with having you on their team. So you've made a huge difference in so
Oh,
many
thanks.
people's lives. So Patty
Been a
is
joy.
amazing. So hopefully some of you will take advantage of working with her in 2024 as you begin a new year. And know that she can see you for long periods of time for 15-minute check-ins, like super flexible. It's not like you have to set aside a whole bunch of time outside of your busy schedule, like you do with your doctors. So it's really, really nice that you have this service and that you are a part of our team, Patty. Makes such a huge difference. So thank you for bringing your knowledge to the table today, the virtual
Thanks.
table.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate the time and the ability to connect with people in the bigger picture. So
Thank you, Patty.
thank you,
Have a
Tiffany.
wonderful new year.
You too.